Last week's statement by the International Monetary Fund that over 90 million Nigerians had crossed the threshold into abject poverty set off instantly the alarm bells among those who for the past 1 year have seen the country's economy almost completely wiped out by the COVID-19 pandemic. Critically, that piece of disturbing data has come at a time when the Nigerian government has been at daggers drawn with another international body, Transparency International, over unfavorable reports in key development indicators. Joining us now to have a conversation about the current state of Nigeria's political economy is Peter Obi, businessman, politician, and former governor of Anambra State and former vice presidential candidate in the 2019 general elections. Mr. Peter Obi, it's good to see you again on the morning show. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ruben and team. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you. Well, so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. I'm sure you know you like to talk about the economy, but there have been some developments that I would like you to talk about. One is Ohanaeze Ndigbo and the politics of the emergence of Professor George Obiozor as the new president of Ohanaeze Ndigbo. Second is the issue that we refer to about Transparency International and the ranking of Nigeria in terms of what the president of Nigeria has been able to do with regard to the fight against corruption. And then the third big issue that is topical is the change of the service chiefs this week, more or less, well, last week, and what you think about that, whether the president acted rather late and whether or not, this is a sign of a new beginning.
Well, very quickly, thank you, Ruben, for having me. And I set my sympathy for your elder colleague, Momo.
Yes, Professor Momo.
He's a very gentleman and a good Nigerian. So may God grant him eternal rest.
Thank you.
On issues you mentioned, if I start with the last one, the service chiefs, well, I think it's within the president's powers, understanding to appoint them whenever he wishes. And I hope that the new ones will aggressively tackle the issue of insecurity. As you know, you've listed one of the things that are getting bad, a lot of things, one of the most critical issues that we need to address aggressively in this country today is the issue of insecurity. It is bad, it is bad, it's bad. Not just scaring away much needed foreign investors, but even local investors. People are scared to invest. People are scared. Nobody invests in an insecure place, no matter how profitable it is, because you have to be alive to enjoy your profits. So we need to address that as aggressively as possible. It's one place that we failed. So for me, that is the issue of service chiefs. On the other issue where you mentioned Transparency International, we have to respect and learn to listen when people are telling us the truth. It is not only when they say, when it favors us. In fact, one of the leadership tools is for you to listen and learn whenever you're criticized genuinely. Is corruption getting worse? Yes. We don't need Transparency International to tell us that. You know, you see it every day. We witness it every day. It is getting worse, and we know it is getting worse. The poverty issue, which IMF have said, IMF have not added the ones that are going to be thrown in due to the pandemic situation. If you add it, it will be over 100 million. That's over 50% of your population is now living under poverty. And I've said it repeatedly here, that we're in a situation where Nigeria now have more people living under poverty than China, and India combined, these two countries, their population is 2.8 billion. And with 200 million, we're over. And pulling them out, it is not a rocket science. Pulling people out of poverty, it's not a rocket science. Countries after countries, which can use as an example, have been able to do that. Vietnam, in a matter of 10 years, put about 50 million out of poverty. For my comparison today, I'm going to use my experience with Bangladesh and tell you how many people they've been able to pull out of poverty. So what are we doing in this area? You hear lots of things about, this paying people 5,000, doing, So I want to know, there's a situation. The election have come and gone. And I think the person that was elected is competent, is qualified, and I believe they can lead the organization. It's not always that things go or favor us if we're contesting and everything and all that. And I think we have more pertinent issues to deal with in the Southeast than to be quarreling about Ohaneze issue when a competent person has been elected. Professor Bioza is competent, and I believe will do a good work.
Okay. Let me take you back to the issue of the Transparency International report. Spokesperson to the President, Garba Shehu, said some days ago, I think yesterday, that this is an indictment on all Nigerians and not necessarily President Muhammadu Buhari. The Nigerians are corrupt, and that's what the report is reflecting. Do you agree with that? And secondly, you talked about poverty reduction and the 5,000 naira to be paid monthly for 6 months to some 24 million Nigerians as a way of bringing people out of poverty. What exactly do you have against that? Do you think it is not sustainable? And when you look at the economic crunch amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, what would be the best approach for the government?
Okay, let me start with what you said about 24 million people. That's all. We're told for those living under poverty are those who are earning $1.90. That means we're talking about those who are earning approximately 800 naira a day. 800 naira a day. So 800 naira times 30 days is 24,000 naira. And you're paying these people 5,000. So you're not putting them out of poverty. Let me show you the other way around. If you divide 5,000 naira with 400 naira, it will give you $12.5. So you have $12.50. And you divide it by 30 days, it will give you 40 cents. So you're actually paying them 20% of what they require to be said to be living above poverty. Worse, you're just going to pay it for 6 months. So after 6 months, what happens to them? That's why if you want to put people out of poverty, there's already clear examples that are universal. They're all over the place. We need to have a properly articulated fiscal and monetary stimulus to support micro, medium, small enterprises.
Well, Mr. Obi,
to be able to put people.
On that note, we need to take a short commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still Peter Obi, businessman, politician, former governor of Anambra State, and former vice presidential candidate in the 2019 general elections in Nigeria. Well, Mr. B, you were talking about the conditional cash transfer, and now 5,000 naira for a household or a person does not amount to much.
I'm just telling you about even to a person, to a household is a disaster because to a person is 40 cents per day. And this is even for 6 months. It's not going to go beyond 6 months, so it's not pulling them out of poverty. To pull them out of poverty, they need a job that will pay them at least 25,000 naira. Because, like I said before, it's 24,000 naira that will give you an average of $1.90 a day. So they need a job that will pay them at least 25,000 naira. So if they have a job where you're paying them 30,000, you can say they're barely living above poverty. 5,000 is not up to 20% of that, of 30,000. You could say it. It's a very simple mathematics. 5 divided 30 is not up to 20. So you need to pay at least 30,000. Even when they were arguing for minimum wage, that was one of the bases. So I don't know how we got it that paying people 5,000 will put them out of poverty. No. And stopping it after 6 months makes it worse. The 5,000 was supposed to be an additional income to women who have been giving support to farm and are taking their children to, maybe as we go along, I describe my experience where people were paid 5,000
well, but
different countries.
The federal government differentiates between the rural poor and the urban poor. There are some persons who are paid one-off 20,000 naira, and some persons who are placed on 5,000 naira for 6 months. And then there are some people who get this wheelbarrow and machetes in 774 local governments, 1,000 persons in each local government. So it's a combination of
Ruben, in
measures.
2008, about 2008 and 2009, I was in Bangladesh with a former minister, my commissioner for women affairs. We were 4 of us for 1 week studying issue of poverty. And we were taken to the rural areas, and you could see what they are doing to pull their people out of poverty. 1, it is not government-driven. When it's government-driven, it becomes transactional. We have created microcredit banks. When Babangida started microcredit banks, the idea is to have a bank that will be domiciled in various communities that will be able to identify these poor people that require small credits to be able to do their business. They were a clearly, like I said, articulated policy that was driven not just by government at the supervision, they are supervising it, but driven by an organization that has been set up for that, run by the various communities, various, call it entity villages and everything. So you go to a place, you see women, they form like a farming club where they farm. Whatever they produce there, government buys it from them for export of this. On top of that, they're giving a small cash grant, and they have a school beside where their children go to school. The consequence today is that we're in 2008, go and check it, when I was there, the per capita of Bangladesh was $635. Ruben, today is $1,900, 12 years. At that time, the literacy rate was 58%. Today, they are 75%. At that time, the HDI was low. Today, they have gone to medium. Because that is an articulated policy that is well implemented, measurable, and everybody can see the growth. In the same 2008, our per capita was $2,240. Today we are $2,220, so we lost $20 in 12 years. So there was nothing. We were low. Our literacy rate then was 51%. Our HDI were low. Today we're still low. Because there was no articulated policy that anybody can measure. If you want to pull out people out of poverty, it is not rocket science. I said it's been done in so many countries. I can show you my studies of at least 27 countries that have been able to do this. And what they've been able to achieve. You don't just get up one morning, stay in Abuja and say you're paying 24 million people 5,000. Who are those 24 million people? Where is their register? Where are they? Where are they? Okay, say, if people in Anambra complain, say, okay, we are giving you 20 million or 50 million for your own people. Then the Kogima will complain, no. That's not what is done. Why do we have microcredit banks?
Well, Mr. Obi, we have a rapid response register, we are told. Rapid response, technology-based, data-driven. I'm sure Rufai is waiting to intervene. Rufai, over to you.
Okay, sir, thank you so much. Great insight you've shared about Grameen and what has been done in Bangladesh, Mohammed Yunus.
So we'll get that audio up for Mr. Obi. Rufai, if you can just repeat the question as we try to get the audio for Mr. Obi.
Okay, so my question will be, looking at the Gini...
Can you hear him?
Yeah, looking at the Gini coefficient in Nigeria is quite low. How can we redistribute wealth? That's the first question.
Can you repeat it, Rufai?
How can we redistribute wealth? That's the first question.
Okay, Rufai, hold on. They are trying to get the audio fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my first question will be about redistribution of wealth. How can we effectively redistribute wealth?
Okay, Rufai is just basically saying that redistribution of wealth, how can we effectively...
And my second question will be...
How do we redistribute wealth effectively?
My second question will be, based on what you are saying, there are banks that are already doing that. In fact, I have spoken to people in the lower rung of society that tell me that banks like Lapo Microfinance Bank is closer to them than any government in this country in terms of microcredit. How do we increase banks like Lapo to get people microcredits to do business?
Rufai, I've said it before. In every community in this country, when we started, the purpose of microcredit bank was for this purpose to set up bank that will be close to the people. Every community that I know, at least when I served as the governor of the state, every community in Anambra State has a microcredit bank. And those banks are now being starved of funds that should go to them. They know their people, they know the people to lend. And they will be more effective, more efficient in lending it, because they will lend it to those who need it. They will lend it to those who have the capacity even to pay back. Even if you decide to distribute it or dash it away, you will, even if you decide that, government is going to do it as call it something that they are not going to pay back, those banks and those facilities are more efficient and will be better in doing it than the way it is being done today. What we are doing today is transactional. It's all about politics and everything. Have anybody told us about all those who they gave 10,000 before that they were going for one place? Where are they? Who are they? How have they progressed? Nobody is measuring them. Rufai, when we talk about conditional cash transfer, the origin was Brazil, Mexico, who used it to pull their people out of poverty, and it was based on, again, organizing women and people in rural areas in what they call societies, support them with something they are producing, and pay them additional money, and then send their children to school. The reason why I didn't go, while I went to Brazil and Mexico, but I didn't focus on what they were doing when I wanted to study it, was because they're already more advanced. Bakol, who introduced this into Nigeria, Conditional Cash Transfer, Professor Bakol, did it based on Brazil and Mexico.
Magnus
Bakol, yes. He introduced it. But it was based on, his studies was based on Brazil and Mexico. But for me, as at the time I was in office, Brazil and Mexico have moved on. So I decided to go and study it in Bangladesh that was implementing it there. And I've just given you their experience and everything. And Magnus will tell you that even when I was in office, our state was #1. And he saw what we were doing. There's a lot to do with, when you talk about that conditional cash transfer, you have to know what those people you're paying, living in society are doing. You have to create access to them. Like if you go to Bangladesh, you said that there were more development, doing railroads and everything to the villages, being able to create school, being able to put even ICT in school, everything that made them to stay. So that small money you give them and everything, plus what they were able to get in staying together, working together and producing something for themselves. That was how they were put out of poverty, not just stay in Abuja and doing a rapid response, or what you call it, a rapid names. And what you said about, you said somebody talked about
the
corruption.
Transparency International and Nigerians.
Saying the Nigerians. Well, we do respect, that is very, very laughable. You can't say, that's why is the assessment on you. Let's start with you and Ruben. Since it's assessment of Nigerians, when you assess a country, you more often do so based on the government of the country. You don't go and say, because Donald Trump is doing what it's all it's American style. No, we don't, nobody does that. They didn't say, when they're talking about the government, the corruption is about the way transactions within government and corporate bodies exist, not on Nigerians. We're talking about, let me tell you, Nigeria is a population of 200 million. Where everybody that you can use to assess this is less than 10%. People in my village have not seen money to eat, so why are you assessing them based on their corruption and everything? No, they are not part of it. It is basically assessing the government, transactions within the government, and the corporate bodies. And these are tiny number of people. Not otherwise, everybody in our rise is corrupt.
Certainly
let's talk about education. One big issue that Nigerians have had cause to talk about in the year 2021, particularly within the context of the reopening of schools, with the federal government saying schools should be reopened, some states saying no, some stakeholders saying no. And the whole issue is, do we have the capacity for virtual learning, online education? What are your ideas in terms of what we should have done, what we should do, and how we should monitor the reopening of these schools in the context of a second wave of the COVID-19? We'll take a short break. When we return, the conversation with Mr. Peter Obi will continue. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Peter Obi, businessman, politician, former governor of Anambra State, former vice presidential candidate in the 2019 general elections in Nigeria. And Mr. B, before we went on break, I'd asked you the question about education and in the context of COVID-19 second wave. How do we manage that? What are fresh ideas that we need to think about?
Ruben, the truth is that in education we have performed very, very, very poorly. And that is what is affecting our development and economy. Everybody knows that the more you invest in education, the better your economy, the better your HDI, which is the most critical measure of development. We've done poorly in that. We, of course, everybody knows when we have the highest number of out-of-school children, not actually out-of-school children, but those who have never been to school at all. With COVID-19 pandemic, having been exposed about the rot and our own failing in education, I think what we need to do, having seen our failure, is now to take as quickly as possible an aggressive way out of it by going with what is obtainable everywhere in the world. Online learning. It is not a rocket science, Ruben. We don't need to get, yes, you can say, we don't need to push everybody to go back. Today, all over the world, people are being taught online. It is not a difficult thing. It is not something you can say is sophisticated. It's even more efficient because people can now, through online, learn more. If we're talking about what you use today, alternative to science, with online, you can actually see the equipment. You can actually, like biology, they will show you the bodies in online, so you can even see it. It's more visible and everything. What people will tell you, oh, how are you going to do it? Where are you going to get provide everybody maybe with a laptop, Android, or this or that, to be able to do it. Ruben, today, our total population of our universities is about 2 million, which is too low compared to our population. Should be about 10 million, compared at least 5%. Today, if you look at the big countries with big population, if you look at the institutions that have huge population, they're all in developing countries, and they're all online. The biggest university today is Indira Gandhi in India, with a student enrollment of 7.4 million. So over 7 million. Followed by Alma in Pakistan, with a population of over 3 million. And then National University of Bangladesh, with over 2 million. So you could see that they're all in countries that have similar trajectory as us. And they're all online. In fact, Alma is ICT. It's all online. Most of them are online learning. And what did they do? It's a very simple thing. Today, our population, like I said, our university population is about 2 million. Even if you go down to our basic education, we have about between 80 and 90 institutions, which with a total population of between 25 and 30 million, again, which is too low. Our population of our basic education should be a quarter of our population, which is about 50 million. And that's why we have 15 million out of school children. So if you say our population today is, say, 30 million, so we need additional 10 at least to pull. If you go and say, okay, let's add even just 20%, 35 million. And then you go to the university level and say, they are going to do this. And Ruben, we can provide today at university level, say, 5 million students with Android tablets that will not cost more than $80. $80. 5 million students.
Per unit.
Per unit, $80. If you multiply it, it's $400 million for 5 million. If you multiply it by 80, it's $400 million. And you're talking about approximately 150 billion naira. Even if you go and say in the senior secondary school, let's take an additional population from there, about 10, 15 million, and do the same thing and provide them again, that's another $800 million. Multiply 4 is 3.4, and again you have you have about 320 billion naira. 320 billion naira plus, say 160, you're talking about 480 billion. And that is what you need to provide your 5 million. This is your population now is 2 million, but I've added 3. 5 million population at the tertiary, 10 million at senior secondary school. You provided them Android at 80 million. It will cost you about 480 million. Ruben, go and check our budgets for the past 5 years and see how much extra.
Okay.
See how much extra the Senate or House of Rep added to the budget. It's more than this amount of money I'm talking. And what was that addition for? So we can add all these things for something that, and if you do this, you create, within 5 years, our literacy rate will increase from where it is today by at least 30%, okay. And HDI will pull out of, and the economy will be on a different ground.
Very quickly, we have about a minute to the break, and I want you to respond to this as quick as you can. Let's talk about the national response to the COVID-19 pandemic in general. Are you satisfied with what governments at federal and state levels and local government levels are doing? Secondly, vaccine procurement and production. Countries are striking lucrative deals with manufacturers to secure these very limited vaccines. Do we have any leverage we should be exploring at this moment? What should we be doing differently?
Well, I don't think I need to have more time because you said you're giving me 1 minute. I think I better leave you to go on break. And when you come back, I'll be able to elucidate my position on issue of vaccine.
We still have a bit of time for one break.
Let me be honest with you. There's, you know, I don't want to be as if I'm always on the negative side.
Okay.
But the reality is that things are not going as transparently as it should. You know, when we talk about management from the onset, you know, I was in this and I criticized and I said, they are not, yes, they are trying to do it in the same Nigerian way, you know, which I think we should not be doing things differently. We now need to be doing things transparently. We now need to be doing things where people can see cost effectiveness, where people can see savings and all that and everything. That was why when you saw NSAS, people were going to break warehouses. Nobody knew those things were packed in warehouses. You didn't know?
I had no idea.
Thank you. So these were things that were supposed to have gone to my village and everything. And people didn't see them. And suddenly, they started coming up from different warehouses everywhere in the nation. And then people now come and say, oh, it's what we bought that we wanted to. What are you saying? These are things people should have known, that Ruben has packed some of the rice in his house. So we know actually it's with him.
Okay, we'll go on that break you talked about now and we'll be back to talk some more. Stay with us.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Glad to have you back. You're still watching the Morning Show here on the Rise News, and we still have with us in the studio Mr. Peter Obi, businessman, politician, former governor of Anambra State, and as well as former vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2019 general elections. Thank you so much for staying with us. Before that break, we were responding to my questions on vaccines and Nigeria's response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, I just have, whenever I look at the issue of vaccine, is one that I feel a sense of pain, I repeated it twice. Why do I say so? Nigeria, as a country, in 1940, established what we call National Vaccine Production Facility, domiciled in Yaba. And that was able to produce virtually all the vaccines we used in the days of smallpox, tetanus, yellow fever, everything. And that facility was shut down in 1991 for refurbishing. That's all. There's nothing wrong with it. It was just to be refurbished and upgraded. Until today, that has been the case, deliberately, so people can import vaccine and sell to the government. Today, we're talking about vaccine. The biggest producer of vaccine is Serum Institute in India. It is established in 1966. Where ours was established in 1940 and was doing well. And this facility in Yaba can be resuscitated. I remember Mayor and Baker, even up till then I was going, running all over the place with federal government to hand over this facility to them so they can take 51% of it, resuscitate it, and make it productive. In fact, the former son, DG, was then the MD of Mayor and Baker, came out the mode. It was due 24 hours. I remember him very well, running around all over the place. That facility is still there. Nobody's talking about resuscitating it by saying, let's invest in. Nigeria doesn't need to even invest in it. Just allow some of this pharmaceutical company to take it to capital market, raise money, and do. Now I hear that we are looking for 400 billion. Am I right? That's the figure to buy vaccine. Well, I'm at loss. Our budget this year for health is 547 billion. I don't know whether they're going to take this vaccine procurement from it, because if they do, we are left with only 147 billion. That's less than, call it, about $300 million for a country of 200 million. That is $1 cent per person. If they're left with 300. The other one is already low, and you're going to worsen it if you do that. So we say, oh, this year, all we did in health is procurement. Our health institution are already weak. We need to inject money into it. For the vaccine procurement, also, we need to have a transparency in the procurement. Today, vaccine from India costs between $2.25 to $3. This is the cost. So if you put 3 plus 2, say 2.5, and divide it into 2, you are going to get $2.75. If you say you're going to use 400 billion, divide the average of 400 million, you're going to talk about $1 billion today. And that's why if you divide $1 billion with 2.75 cents each, it's going to give you about, I'm sure, about 350, 360 million doses, which is far in excess of what we need. WHO said if you can inject 70% of your population,
you have a herd immunity.
That's it. 70% of Nigeria at 200 million is about 140. So we're actually looking for 140 million doses. So why are we buying 300 and something million doses? But considering that some other people are going to give us some free, we actually don't need more than 120. But let's say we're buying 140. If 140 is what we're buying, we just need about $380-something million, which is about 150 billion to buy it. So if they have a 400 billion budget, my suggestion, they don't need to award contract in this vaccine. They then just call Serum Institute in India, plead with them. I'm sure they will even give us discount. They can say this to us. If they want, I can go for the negotiation It won't cost us more than $2, if not $1.5 million.
The problem is that one, we don't know which particular vaccine we're interested in. Two, the supplementary budget that would provide that $400 billion that was announced in December by the Minister of Health. Nobody has acted on it, even given the fact that the National Assembly says that it is willing and ready. And as at this moment, we don't even know which vaccine Nigeria is interested in, whether it's AstraZeneca or it is Pfizer.
And some require 2 doses.
Okay. That's why I make a mention. My own suggestion today is, while they are looking for the money, which will be, I don't know where, because the budget is already being funded by, again, stimulus of borrowing. So if that is to save us, our budget this year for health is 547 billion naira. And I'm saying that 147 billion is enough to buy the vaccines we need. And all we need is to go to India and use it, buy direct from serum. Everybody knows where vaccine is being sold. Everybody knows the cost. Today is about $2.5. If we go direct to them, they will give it to us at $2.
Well, I hope somebody somewhere is listening. But we have just like 2 minutes to go. Rufai, you have a question for Mr. Obi to wrap this up.
Okay, quickly, what's your take on the sale of government assets to fund the budget?
Ruben, it's like, I don't know how I put it. Just put it this way, Rufai. Rufai is like asking me, what is my take on selling my property in order to live for today? What is my children going to live in? I have protested about sale of assets, even when we are doing privatization at the early stage of this democracy business. We were privatizing profits then and socializing assets. If you sell it today to fund budget, what are you going to sell tomorrow? What we need to do, I keep saying it every day, is cut the cost of governance. I've just shown you how you can go and procure all the vaccines you need with about 30% of what they are projecting they need to procure it. It's not a rocket science. You can cut all the, because you don't have money. What we need is transparency. We need to cut the cost of governance, because you can't have a budget where your recurrent expenditure is 70 to 80%, and you are funding it based on borrowing and sale of assets. You're just committing suicide.
I guess that's a good place.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Peter Obi. I think that's all we'll be able to take. And we thank you for always obliging us each time we invite you. Thank you very much for joining us on the
We have
morning
no
show.
other country, Ruben, to make this work.
It's our country. We are obliged to make it a better place.